All right, so today we are going to continue in our series as we've been talking about love where you live. And when we're talking about love where you live, we see that there's a number of things that we do, right? So God placed you where God wants you, right? And so if you're here for a purpose, you're here for a reason. It doesn't mean God might have you here forever. It just might mean that God has you where He wants you right now. Right, and it's a good thing. As we went over that, we started to say we need to be able to see our neighbors, not just look at them through the window, but to be able to say, hey, like there's my neighbor. I see them, and guess what? I'm going to also engage with them. I want to say, hi, how are you? Right, hey, what is it that makes you tick? Tell me about you. Last week we talked about building, planting, and blessing coming from that Jeremiah passage, which really is kind of the undertow passage for this whole series. Loving where we live is because God planted those people there in exile to be a part of their country, a part of those people, and He says, build, plant, bless the people around you. So today, this is what we're going to get into. As you can see, hospitality is mission. So loving where you live means that we're opening our lives to others so that they can encounter the love of Christ. It's a pretty simple thing, but this is what I want you to be able to walk away with. I want you to be able to say, today, this is what I learned, is that when I love where I live, it means that I'm going to open my life to others so that they can actually see Christ. And this is a good thing. So let's go to our passage. One of our passages for today, Romans chapter 12. Romans chapter 12, this is a good passage from Paul here to the church in Rome. And it's something that I think that we should really pay attention to when it comes to loving where we live and also seeing our neighbors and engaging in the lives of others. Verse 9, he says, don't just pretend to love others, really love them. Hate what is wrong, hold tightly to what is good. Love each other with genuine affection, and take delight in honoring each other. You see, there's a part of that, and I think Paul does a good job showing here's the if we had two things, you're like, here's the good and here's the not so good. And he's like, go over here, go to the good. Love each other, not just like say it. Now, oh, of course, we love each other. We're like, no, but actually love each other. Like, do the thing that you're saying that you're going to be and do. And don't just live on this side of this and just be like, well, yeah, of course, we love our neighbors, right? That's our little secret. We don't, no, that's not what we want to do. We need to be genuine in this. Because when we're looking at our neighbors and we're talking about hospitality today, we're going to say hospitality is more than just entertaining people. Hospitality is not just saying, well, the door's open. If they want to come, they can come. You see, hospitality goes way beyond that. Biblical hospitality isn't just about impressing others or impressing the guest. It's also welcoming the stranger. And this is what I throw in the Greek word here. I don't like to throw in Greek words a lot, as you probably already know. I don't like to throw them in, but this one is something that is particularly one that I want you to be able to see, because when they use the word hospitality here, look at the word that's being used, philo or philo, which is the love of brother, right? The love of the other, right? Xenia is the stranger, is the foreigner. It's somebody that's coming from the outside and is coming in. So what is this when you put it together? Hospitality is the love of the stranger. How often are we doing that? It's easy to be able to live in our bubbles. It's easy to be able to live with people who are going to think like us and look like us and act like us. But when we look at true biblical hospitality, what Paul's calling us to, he's saying it's the love of the stranger, the other. And this is good for us to be able to let that sink in for us. When we're called to biblical hospitality, we're saying God's calling us to love the other, to love the stranger, to love and welcome. And this is good for us to be able to take into consideration, because it shifts our thinking from a dinner party to making space for God's love to be seen. We've talked about inviting people. We've talked about saying, hey, have a meal. And we're going to have these same suggestions today just to give you a sneak peek at the ending of the Let's Get Practical part. We're going to talk about inviting people in. But here's the thing. Let's not just think about, hey, what does a really great dinner party look like where people are going to be impressed by it? But what does a great dinner party look like where we can allow people to see the love of God? You see, that's a whole different perspective, and we need to change our mindset on this, because, yes, somebody can be really great at what we would call hospitality in the world. They'd say, oh, they're wonderful people to be able to throw a good party. But we have to be able to bring in this idea as God's people, right? We have to bring in the idea that these parties need to be able to also say, where can we make space to allow others to be able to see God moving? Go to Romans chapter 15. Got a couple of random verses here. 15 verse 7. Paul says, therefore accept each other, just as Christ has accepted you, so that God will be given glory. All right, so what is this? Hospitality is then rooted in God being the one who first welcomed and accepted us. So we were once strangers. We were the ones on the outside, and God says, I see you, I know you, I accept you. Come in. You see, and this is like the God of the universe, the one who spoke things into existence, is now the one who's saying to you and to me and to everyone, he's saying, come in. It reminds me of like the prodigal son story, the two lost sons story, where only one of them remains lost. We won't get into the whole thing, but here's the thing. What God does in this picture is he sees the father. The father's welcoming in this son who was very prodigal throughout his life. He wasted a lot of this money that was given to him to be able to throw lavish parties. But he comes back humbled, and the father says, no, come in. And we're also going to throw a great celebration so that you can see the goodness of God here. But he goes to the one older brother who's still out in the field. He hears the party going on. And his father goes to him and he says, oh, no, this is a party. Your brother, he was once lost, he's now found, right? He was once out there. Guess what? Now he's back, and we're having a celebration. And he says to him as well, come on in. But he refused to. He refused to be able to see that there was a place for him as well. God's calling us to be able to make space. God's saying, look at the stranger, look at the one who's on the outside, look at the marginalized, look at those people out there, and you have to be the ones who are going to say, come. I want to show you something. I want you to be able to see this goodness. While we were yet outsiders, God welcomes us, we in turn need to do the same. Hospitality flows from the gospel, right? We already see this, right? We were welcomed, and now we also welcome others. It's very simple, and yet for some reason what we do with this is we make it difficult. We still say, okay, we're going to welcome everybody, and then we're like, well, maybe not everybody. Well, who do you want to leave out? Who do you believe doesn't deserve the grace of God? Right? And these are the questions, and nobody would be like, well, of course, we would never say that. No, we just act like it. When people approach, we're like, let's hold them a little bit of an arm's length away. When we start to be able to see that our actions are not just hey, of course, the door is open, we want to welcome everybody. Of course, our homes are open, we want to welcome everybody. Well, except for. And this is when we look at Jesus and we see what Jesus is doing throughout the Gospels when he's engaging with everybody. We talk about the tax collectors and the sinners, right? And these are like the known sinners. Everybody knows they're sinners, and everybody just accepts that way. And the Jewish folks, and they're like, no, we can't be with the sinners. We can't be with them. They're going to make us unclean. And if we're unclean, then we can't go to the synagogue. And if we can't go to the synagogue, then we can't bring our offerings, and we can't do this. So they at that time, were going to be separated from them. And Jesus is like, no, I'm going to be near to them. Jesus sat down and ate with tax collectors and sinners. Jesus sat down and ate with the same Pharisees that wanted to see Jesus put to death. You see, this dynamic of what we see in the life of Jesus throughout these Gospels and throughout his ministry, he's continuing to try to display for us the same things that we should be doing. He's saying, look at this table. This is a huge table, and guess what? We don't have enough people that are sitting at it. Let's make room. Who hasn't been able to find a seat at the table? Who have we been leaving out and saying, oh, I guess we just don't have any other chairs, sorry. There's no room for you at this table. There's no room for you here. Jesus expands the table. Jesus says to everybody, he says, come, let's sit down, let's talk, let's eat, let's share. This is the gospel on display. Jesus inviting people in, making room at the table and saying, come. So the question that we ask, and I want you to be able to sit with, is to be able to say, when in your life, who in your life right now is the one who is feeling unseen or unwelcomed? And what can we do about it? You see, right now, there's a lot of people that are in our neighborhood right now. There's a lot of people in neighborhoods all around the world that are feeling unseen and unwelcomed. There's no room at the table for them anywhere. They don't feel like anybody wants to see them or wants to welcome them. And this is a good opportunity for us as God's people to be able to consider this biblical hospitality, to be able to say, we want to be able to go to the ones who don't see, it can't be welcomed anywhere else, and we want to be able to say, no, we're going to make room at the table. Even if we, at my house, this is what happens at our table, we have those little, wood pieces that expand the table. And we don't always like to bring them out, but we're like, okay, like if we have to make room, we're going to build a bigger table then. Because we want to be able to make space for people who are unseen and unwelcomed. Because this is what Jesus did for us. This is what Jesus did with the tax collectors, the sinners, the Pharisees, the teachers of the law. He made space. Hebrews chapter 13, verse 2. Don't forget to show hospitality. And listen to this. I'm just going to repeat this again because this would make this verse redundant. If you remember what I said about hospitality, this translation would make it completely redundant. Listen to this again. Don't forget to show hospitality to strangers. Hospitality is already loving the stranger, and he's saying, show hospitality to the stranger. For some who have done this have entertained angels without realizing it. So many stories that people step into your life and you have a moment, just a moment with them. And you're like, I was able to show them hospitality. I don't know if I'll ever see them again. I don't know if I'll ever interact with them ever again. And who knows, maybe we were entertaining angels. I don't know. But here's the thing about it is that we don't have to question, like, are you an angel? No, we don't have to ask. We just say, I want to show love to the stranger. I want to show love to the people that God is putting in front of me. So in this way, hospitality is a mission strategy. If God has us on mission for God's purpose, for God's kingdom, then we're saying, hey, this hospitality gives us another tool. We can love the stranger. Ordinary meals and open doors then become an extraordinary mission tool for us to be able to say, you know what, I got this in the tool bag. Where can I use an open door? Where can I use a meal to show love to the stranger? Wonderful opportunities are always happening around us, and God's inviting us right now to be able to start to see it and to utilize it. Acts 2:42, you can go there if you want to, but here's the thing about Acts 2:42 shows us that early church, and they used this hospitality as a strategy. And what do we find in the early church, in the movement of God through the early church, is that they were doing these things. It says that they started to be able to just eat together. They started to be able to share together. They started to be able to just say, hey, let's talk about what God's doing in the midst of us right now. And it says, and then God added to their numbers. Why? Because they were using open doors. They weren't just saying, oh, we already have a good number, we're closed for this week. God was using those people in that place to be able to say, what are they doing? They're doing regular stuff. They're sharing a meal together. They're praying together. They're talking about what God is doing together. And they didn't mind having the stranger come in to be able to be a part of that. Maybe even the stranger's like, well, I'm unfamiliar with what prayer looks like. I don't really know, I don't like to pray out loud. I don't know these things of God. Well, guess what? When they kept coming back, they were invited into that same space. They heard it again and again and again until they were a part of them. This is a power tool for the church. The church being the people of God. Because our strategy, if you notice that these ways in which we show hospitality is not just in our church space. And it's also not just for the goal of saying, I need to win you over so that you come to church. No, remember, when we talked about this hospitality as a mission, we're saying it's to be able to open the door of our lives so that somebody can see Christ through it. This is something that we have to utilize so much more. So, here's the practical part. And this is way that I've been talking and these are, none of these are, I think, anything new that we haven't already addressed. Last week, the practical part was more of that prayer guide to be able to say, if you're just walking around and you're doing your thing, this is where you can be praying for people. Right? Today, we're going to say the practical part is, hey, we're going to just start small. And I put these broken down in the back of your bulletin just so that when you walk away, you're like, did I write that down? What was the challenge? What was I supposed to do? And I'm like, nope, you already got it. It's in your bulletin. You're like, I didn't get a bulletin. Cool, then grab one on the way out. But here's the thing, practical things that we can do. We're going to start small. We're going to say, one person. I'm going to say, hey, can we grab lunch? Can we grab a coffee? Can we grab a drink? Just one person. Now, for anybody who wants to be an overachiever, you can say, hey, I'm going to invite a family. That's cool too. Be an overachiever. That's okay. But instead of being able to think always large and big, we are going to say we're going to start small with this and say we're going to invite one. And the next one is the same one we've been talking about since the first week. We want to be available. We want to take a moment to let it linger, right? To be able to say, before I'm going inside, locking the doors, shutting down the lights in the house, I'm going to just linger outside for a little bit longer to be able to see, is there a neighbor who is out here that I can engage with? Is there somebody that's still there? Just take a little bit more time. Be available to say, you know what, God, please interrupt my schedule. Please interrupt my regular standard routine. Be open to the interruptions. The next one is opening up our space. I know for some people this is a harder one because there might be some introverts who are just like, my space is my space, and I don't like to be able to open up my space. But here's the thing about it. There's the place of vulnerability. There's the place of being able to say, you know what, I'm going to open myself up a little bit more today. This is a good opportunity to be able to say, how can I know a neighbor better? Because then in these spaces, in these times, we're talking about then sharing meals, and the meal becomes more than a meal. It's a moments and opportunities that we get to be able to share what's happening in each other's lives, to celebrate the good, to mourn some of the other things that aren't so good. But I also want you to be able to consider, as we talked about, who in your life, maybe that's still sitting on the boundaries, somebody who's often overlooked, who's not seen. Maybe it's a widow. Maybe it's just somebody who lives alone. Maybe there's somebody else that you know that you're saying, I think that they often get overlooked and unseen. I want you to be able to say, how is it that we can start to be able to see our neighbor? Look at them. Allow them to see you. and allow Christ to be shown through you. So these are things to get practical with, and if you have questions about it, I'm always happy to be able to engage in conversations like that. So, what do? Hospitality is mission. We're going to love the stranger, the ones that God put in front of us. Why? Because this is gospel. This is gospel. This is Jesus welcomed us first, and now it's our turn to welcome the stranger. In Jesus' name, please stand and pray.